Thank you for being here. Thank you for attending. We're hoping to shine a little light today on ways to live a more sustainable life, as well as learn about some local businesses and some other institutions that might help us just do that. As the Creation Care team at New Beginnings has worked to educate ourselves on environmental issues and the changing climate, we've often felt overwhelmed with the enormity of the problems we face. The question that so many people seem to have is, what can we, or more to the point, what should we be doing about all these issues that we're becoming so acutely aware of? So, since today is a celebration, we don't want to use our time together to focus on sharing the gloomy prospects that we face, but rather we want to focus on ideas for some things we can do, both as individuals and as communities of faith, in some small way to be part of the solution rather than continuing to contribute to the problem. Click. There we go. Today's presentation draws its inspiration in part from the Eco Bible. This is, as of a couple of weeks ago now, a 2-volume set of commentaries. They're based on the Torah, or the first 5 books of the Old Testament. The authors are Rabbi Yonatan Nerel, and I apologize if I messed up that pronunciation, and Rabbi Leo D. And they're both associated with the Interfaith Center for Sustainable Development in Israel. The Eco Bible draws on 3,500 years of religious wisdom to reveal some faith-based commentaries on ecological sustainability. And I highly recommend this resource for learning what our Judeo-Christian heritage has to teach us about such things as human health, preservation of biodiversity, and clean air, land, and water. The Eco Bible can be ordered from Amazon, or you can borrow mine. But if you want to just kind of get an introduction to the Eco Bible before you make that purchase, I encourage you to pick up a handout titled Your 7-Step Faith-Based Blueprint to a Sustainable Life. And that will give you a lot of information. One of the things they do in these books is after each section they kind of have action ideas. Here's some things you can do. And a lot of those are captured in this blueprint document, which you'll find over on the keyboard there. We're going to have, incidentally, we're going to have a lot of handouts, and so it's going to be one of those things where, and yes, we have a handout for that. So every time I say that, they're all in the same place there. So, what do we mean when we talk about leading a sustainable life? The concept of sustainability is starting to be used a lot and maybe overused. The problem with the term is that there's just really no agreement on its definition. If you Google this term, you're likely to find hundreds of attempts to define the concept. But the one from the EPA website, I liked because it was kind of simple and it didn't go into a bunch of things that sort of complicate the definition. And I'll just read it in case that font isn't big enough for you. Sustainability is based on a simple principle. Everything that we need for our survival and well-being depends either directly or indirectly on our natural environment. To pursue sustainability is to create and maintain the conditions under which humans and nature can exist in productive harmony to support present and future generations. And in order for us to kind of stay within our time constraints today, I'm going to focus on just a couple of 2 broad areas that individuals and communities of faith can work on to live more sustainably. And if you know me, you know that one of them has to be food, and the other is energy conservation. And incidentally, it happens to be that when we first started talking with Carol Devine, the Green Chalice minister, about, there's a lot to unpack here, what is your advice? That's exactly what she said. Focus on food and conserving energy. So we're in good company in that regard. Click. So let's start with food. And our first big idea today is that when possible, buy food locally. And there's a lot of good reasons for that, and I'm just going to highlight a few. Local food tends to be fresher because it is transported over a shorter distance. Local food can be more nutritious because there can be a loss in nutrients when food has to travel a long distance. Local food results in less pollution and lower carbon emissions for the same reason, not transported as far. Local food quite often is sold without additional packaging, so less waste. So lots of good reasons to do that. Supporting local farms that use sustainable practices may allow us to boost biodiversity. It may protect pollinators that are vital to healthy ecosystems, and it may promote clean air, water, and soil. So farmers markets are a great place to stock up on fresh produce and other items during warmer months. And if you can't or you don't choose to go to the big market downtown, and I can kind of get that. The last time I was there, it was just kind of hard to move between all the people and the pets. But if you can't do that or don't want to do that, there are, in the greater Des Moines area, farmers markets every night of the week, Monday through Friday. And in case you don't know where they are, there's a handout over there that lists them all and tells you exactly where to find them and when to find them and when they run, because some of them don't even start till June. But by the time we get into summer, there will be something every night that you can go to, which is good. Click. We have some other sources of local food around here that people may or may not know about. One that I've kind of discovered in the last 6 months or so is the Iowa Food Cooperative. This is in the Franklin Plaza area, 4944 Franklin. And they provide local foods on a year-round basis. And they allow you to go online, pick out what you want. It's a very nice website to use. And order it, and then you just go there and you pick it up on Fridays usually. There's a handout over there that talks about their products. Note, however, that it's a little bit out of date because just recently they have added more hours and they're open more days. So check their website before you go over there because they may be open now when they weren't in the past. They also have satellite locations. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Yes. Lutheran Services in Iowa, their Immigrant and Refugee Community Services, operates the Global Greens Community-Supported Agriculture Program. And through a seasonal subscription, you can receive weekly certified naturally grown vegetables grown by former refugees in the central Iowa area. This is a great way to get fresh produce and maybe to learn about some new foods and to help out our former refugee neighbors. We had a lunch and learn about this program and others that they're doing this last Wednesday at New Beginnings, and I had no idea everything that they're involved in community gardening and everything. So this is just one of the things that they do, but a very good one. They have, I believe, two different. I think they have a spring and a fall. Maybe I'm getting that confused. Anyway, you can check their website, and it's possible. Some of these subscription plans kind of fill up, and so it might be that soon you won't even be able to get it for this summer, but I think they do it again in the fall, so check them out. Dog Patch Urban Gardens Farm Stand is open Wednesdays and Saturdays from 10 to 4. They're located at 5085 Meredith Drive. And they also have what they call a modified community-supported agriculture program. And we have a handout over there that describes it for those that are interested. So, one more, and even more. And I'm kind of embarrassed that I'm so late to the game on this one. Apparently it's been going on for some time, but the Central Iowa Shelter has a greenhouse. And starting last year, they started expanding it so that what they do is they grow fresh produce and they use it there in their kitchens at the shelter, but they also sell it. And they got a nice contribution from the Shane family and allowed them to build a brand new greenhouse, which is 4 times larger than the old one. And it includes what they call a hydrocycle aquaponics system. And I'm sure we all know what that is. I almost made a handout about it. They had a nice picture of how it works with the fish, and they take the fish poo and use that to fertilize the plants, and then the plants clean the water, and it goes, it recycles back to the fish, and it's just I don't know who thought of it, but it's a wonderful system, and it's low maintenance and a self-sustaining food source kind of thing. They're also, and this was exciting to me. I was just down there Thursday night. We did our cooking there on Thursday night, and they are creating an urban agri-hood. And I'm sure you know what that is too. That's a combination of agriculture and neighborhood, where they do large-scale gardening practices, but integrated within a park-like community. And it'll be maintained by shelter employees and clients at the shelter, and then volunteers. So this 4-acre addition will increase the shelter's ability to grow and harvest fruits and vegetables, generating about 75,000 pounds of produce each year for the kitchen and the community. This broadened capacity will provide more food, meals, and nutrition for public consumption. And the way you can participate in that, I'm sure they would love to have your donations if you think that's a worthy cause. But the other thing you can do is, if you go over to Iowa Food Cooperative over on Franklin, they sell the Central Iowa Shelter produce. So that's a good place to pick that up. You can support them in that way as well. Next one. Okay, where's Ken? Ken, this one's for you. Okay, eat less meat. There, I said it. Notice I didn't say eat no meat. But since we're talking about sustainability today, it just needs to be said that our current level of meat consumption in the world is simply unsustainable. Livestock farming today is responsible for more greenhouse gas emission than all global transportation combined. And we're cutting down our old growth forests, which are essentially the lungs of the planet, to plant crops needed to feed these animals to satisfy our insatiable desire for meat products. Did you know, for instance, that less than 6% of the soybeans grown in the world are fed to humans? Oh, I forgot. I wasn't going to be doom and gloom today. So what do we do? Well, one small thing we can do is Meatless Monday. Karen and I choose to go without meat on Mondays. Obviously, there's nothing special about Mondays other than it's alliterative with meatless. So if we're not able to go meatless on any given Monday, we move it to a different meatless day. The impact of this, though, is to reduce our meat intake by at least 14% a week. And the effect can be larger than 14% because the discipline involved in having to come up with a special menu on that day once a week really allows us to try more plant-based recipes. And sometimes, believe it or not, we like them enough that we insert them back in the rotation that week. So we may have more than one meatless day in any given week. But that's a small way. And my sense is, and it's going to be a long transition, but my sense is that at some point we will simply have to, in some way, cut back on how much we're eating. And so no time like the present to kind of get started on that and learn some new ways to operate. And we're ready for the next one. This is kind of a big one too. Waste less food. Anybody have an idea of how much of our food is wasted? According to the Department of Agriculture, 30 to 40% of it, which is kind of amazing when you think about it. So we've got some tips over there on a sheet, and these come from the Mayo Clinic Health System. I'll run through them pretty quickly if I can. They suggest that before you go to the store, and I'm guilty of this, not doing this, take a quick inventory of what's in your pantry, refrigerator, and freezer before you go to the store. Just kind of solid advice, because we have a tendency to kind of forget what's there and go out and buy more, which we may not need or may not have the opportunity to use. They also suggest creating meal plans. Planning at least some of your meals during the week helps you avoid buying too much. And if you don't think you'll be able to eat your leftovers within 3 days, label them and store in the freezer. Wow. If only. My technique is to put it in the refrigerator, and then when it turns green, throw it out. Don't do what I do, though. No, that's I love people that are so organized that, everything's labeled and they know how long it's been in there, and that's the way to operate. Store food appropriately. Start by only buying what you need, and then, storing your greens and everything in the crisper drawer, tomatoes and bananas on the counter, potatoes and onions in a cold, dark place, and here's one I hadn't thought of, fresh herbs in a glass of water. Who knew? They suggest buying ugly foods, purchasing imperfect food, misshaped or oddly shaped fruits, for instance, and then using leftovers creatively. Find ways to use leftovers rather than tossing out food that isn't fresh. Vegetable scraps and peels can be used for soup stock. Apples and blueberries that are soft work perfectly when you cook them in oatmeal. Slightly wilted vegetables are great for soups or stir fries. And essentially, soup can be made out of pretty much anything. But if you don't, And let's move to, and now we find out whether we have a video or not. Yes, we do. Wonderful. Okay. I've always thoughts of composting. But to be honest, I didn't really want to take the time and make the investment to do it myself. But thanks now to the Iowa Food Cooperative, we can take advantages of the services of Compost Ninja. The co-op will sell you bags which you can use to collect your own compostable items. And when your bag is full, you just drop it off in one of the bins located behind the co-op. Then these materials are picked up and composted by him. And this can keep up to 40% of your trash out of the landfill. And the Iowa Food Co-op finances the service through the sale of these bags. And they're not incredibly cheap, but I use like one a week. And so that's $2.50 a week. It's costing me to feel better about what I'm putting into the landfill. The other thing that was very surprising to me, I have this tendency to think, there's only certain things that you can compost, and I think when you're doing it yourself, that's true. But he talked about some of them, and this list, and the copy over there, surprised me. And, in addition to all these food scraps and things like that you come up with, coffee grounds, coffee filters, tea bags, paper towels, paper towel rolls, soiled paper food packaging, fast food paper packaging, pizza boxes, muffin wrappers, flour and sugar bags, paper plates. I mean, there is a lot of stuff that he will take. And what I've done is I purchased just this small countertop lidded bin to collect my food scraps. Do get a lid. Let me just say that. I thought smell might be a problem, but it really hasn't been. And I use compostable liners. They're on this list. They're BPI certified compostable, and they're just little devils. And when one's filled up, then I just throw it in the big bag, and then when my big bag's full, then I take it back to the co-op. So I think it's, this would be something to look at if you have any interest in doing something like that, because you really can get a lot of stuff going to the composter instead of the landfill. So let's go to the next slide if we can. And kind of switch gears here from food. I hate to get off my favorite topic, but we need to talk about something else. We need to start thinking about how we can conserve energy. Every human on Earth is responsible for the degradation to our environment on a local, national, and global scale. Our unbounded use of fossil fuels to stoke our energy-intensive lifestyles is causing our climate to change. Some ideas for becoming more aware of our personal and local impacts to the environment might be, I don't know if you can read that or not, but if you haven't done it so far, there's a website called www.carbonfootprint.com. And you can go out there and use these free tools to calculate your carbon footprint. And then after you've taken the quiz, you can explore different ways to possibly live more sustainably. Another thing that you might do is learn about water challenges in your community, explore ways to cut your water use. There's lots of suggestions in that regard. Pretty much all you'd have to do is Google how to reduce my water use. And you could talk with your lawmakers and support an effective energy policy, whether it's at the city, state, or federal level. And an effective policy I'm going to define as one that strongly reduces fossil energy use, perhaps by investing in city-owned electric vehicles or anything that supports the development of carbon-free energy sources like solar panels. on homes and municipal buildings. So let's go to the next slide. And let's think about, this is something that we've been doing with our creation care team, looking for ways to save energy in our house of worship, but we're also looking at ways that individually we can do that in our homes. So this, just a few suggestions from the Department of Energy: install and set programmable or smart thermostats, select window treatments that allow you to use natural light while reducing heat loss and gain, switch to Energy Star appliances when you're replacing an appliance, choose energy-saving LED lighting, use an electronic power strip for your electronic equipment and then turn that off when it's not in use. Lower your water heater's temperature and install low-flow shower heads. And regularly maintain your heating and cooling systems. Just a few of the things that you might think about doing both individually and with your faith communities. So let's go to our final slide here and ask the question, why bother? Why do we bother? What is the point of doing these small acts aimed at sustainability? Is changing a LED light bulb really going to have an impact on the changing climate? One answer to this question from the editors of Christian Century in an article called Small Acts, Big Signs. This article talks about the distinction between being a sign and being a solution. Communities of faith are called to be signs which point to God's vision. We cannot end hunger, but we can contribute to and volunteer with organizations that are feeding people, like Urbandale Food Pantry and UCAN. We won't end homelessness, but we can provide our money and volunteer hours to support organizations like Central Iowa Shelter and Services. And our small efforts themselves will not solve the problem of our changing climate. But we do these things out of love and for love. And the time is now for us to understand that the love of the planet is as vital and compelling as love of neighbor. And in reality, amounts to the same thing. Every action we take, no matter how small, to live a life of sustainability is an act of love. Thank you for your time today.